Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. This is Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
And here we are, sitting at an overlook of Moscow.
Yeah, a different overlook this time.
Yep.
Also,
And there
I'm
is
feeling
this-
so smug that we keep doing this. Like,
Yeah,
we
good job, us.
actually, once
What
a
is
week,
this?
we've
Is
managed
this a
to do
stink bug or a cricket that's doing this with us on the windshield?
it. I don't know. It's hard to see from the inside.
Well, there
Diagnose
is
it
a
from the
bug that
underbelly.
it rode across town with us on the windshield, and it is here for the podcast. It is
here.
going to help us out. So, what have you been up to, Becca?
Oh, so many things, actually. And then I'm about to hit another so many things in a minute. Ben and I just got back last night. That's my Dr. Pepper.
Oh, you're right. I'm drinking other people's drinks.
We're doing ice drinks today, so that weird rattling noise you hear in the background. That's
And this is my straw.
just so you can categorize that.
I don't
later.
want you to worry when you hear these noises. All right, so you and Ben
Anyway,
were in California.
We were in California with the Wilsons. Nate was just released from the hospital like 2 days ago, so Ben and I were there for one day while he was in the hospital, and then we helped get him packed up and across town to a little beach house where he's just supposed to recover, learn how to balance again, learn how to walk, really.
Learn how to try to not throw up and be able to eat things.
It's gonna be rough. He's doing awesome, and God was very kind in that surgery, and it's just there's a lot of blessings, but it's gonna be a long recover, I think. But anyway, so we left him last night. Ben and I came back, and and I'm taking a real hairpin turn because I am speaking at a ladies' conference tomorrow. And then I have one day, and then I have the President's Dinner, the New St. Andrews President's Dinner on Wednesday.
Becca
and I
likes
am
to
doing
keep
too
things-
many things for
She
that.
likes to keep it at a nice, slow, easy. You know
lollygag.
those blog posts that people write about just say no to all of your commitments. That's what she does. She's like just say no to sewing and designing.
You know all those like
table runners.
You know all the sort of Instagrammy pictures of like, here I am with my coffee.
I choose me having
my
a quiet
freshly
time on the
painted
deck.
toenails.
I'm on the deck choosing me right
I've got
now.
my feet up, and I'm just breathing.
Yeah.
That's not how my life
Be
is going
still,
right now.
be still, and reflect on everything. No, that's not the way. It's
No,
not
so
the
I
way.
have to actually.
It's not the cowboy
I
way,
have
and it's
a
not the
huge
Merkel
amount
way either.
of sewing to get done before Wednesday, and some centerpiece action that I can't even describe because even in my head I'm not totally sure how it's working, but it involves plaster.
Really?
Yes. I'm not
I'd
even gonna try.
like the audience to know that that I sometimes counsel wiser approaches. Sometimes I think I'm a 50-50 friend on that. I think half the time I'm like, oh, you shouldn't do that. That would be too much work and it will kill you and it will be sad at the last minute. It'll be so stressful. And then the other half of the time I'm like, you know what you ought to do, Beck.
I know. And so
back this up and why don't you make that?
I know. Well, I'm trying.
Why don't you
Something-
mine the clay that you then
I know.
threw the thing
There's
and glazed
no-
it and then crush it and then make the mosaic table?
There's no porcelain this year, but there is plaster. So
Should be good.
I will.
But
If
won't
it
make it.
turns out, I'll post a picture and I'll be like, see, that's the plaster thing I reflected upon
Okay.
in the podcast.
Good.
Anyway, so that's coming at me on Wednesday. And, oh, you know what else, though? I thought I should say this because the dress that I talked about last week for my daughter, I didn't ever say what it was that they were doing, but I thought we should talk about this because it's actually quite awesome. So, Logos School, actually, our mom started this. That's funny. Back when we were in high school, this was...
Did you just now remember that?
Yeah, mom's the one who
So
kicked this
funny.
off back when we were in high school. But Logos doesn't do prom. And, we didn't turn off the ringers.
But I like that was both of us and Mom group texted us during it.
Together.
All right.
Anyway, so they do a dinner called the Protocol Dinner, and they have a series of training sessions basically in advance where they go over basic etiquette, like how to behave at a formal event and which fork to use and
how to introduce yourself, the art of small talk,
how to get a girl's coat on her and pull her seat back and when to stand up, and
whether to put your napkin on the table or on your lap
or
the chair when you're going to the bathroom.
And, you know, just making conversation at the table.
I remember back when I was in high school, we would have that open house, like hors d'oeuvres, where they had, after the week of training, they would have like the mayor and people there that,
like city councilmen
so
and stuff.
All the high school kids would need to like introduce themselves and have
talk.
Basically a cocktail party without the cocktails.
Yes, and then
talk.
And so after the training, they get dressed up and they go do it. So the freshmen and sophomores do it earlier in the year, and they do kind of semi-formal, and then the upper group, the juniors and seniors, do one, and it's a little more formal. So they're supposed to wear more like a gown type thing. So anyway, and I have to say that has stood me in good stead over the years. Just the basic stuff of knowing how to behave is, and it's just
using your silverware from the outside to the inside,
working your way through it, knowing how to set a table, like how the table ought to go,
and how to pick up your how to do your knife and your fork transfers and things.
Yes,
just a lot of
where
that.
to put them on your plate to signal that you're done, and just lots of basic things beyond don't chew with your mouth open, you know.
Yes.
And so anyhow, that's what that flurry of excitement was last week.
Do you know what I did this week? I thought it was one of my better moments. And, well, it was just funny. It was a good time. I did a massive bread baking day in which, so the leaven that I use makes 4 loaves. Like, one batch makes 4 loaves. So I needed more than 8. Mm-hmm. So I had to go to 12.
Okay.
That was a little more than I needed. But it was like 4, 8, or 12. I just did 12. So right as I get the whole runway lined up of 12 loaves of bread.
Big loaves too, I must say. These are not...
Yeah, yes. And right as I get them all and I am preheating the oven, the power goes out. We had like a little storm and the power went out.
Were you going to just bake them all 12 in a row?
I was going to bake like the whole first fleet I was going to bake. And then some of them had not made it to the end, had not made it to the really shaping yet.
That.
Yeah, it was the first time I've tried doing that many at one time, and there were already a few questions before we had a sudden thunderstorm and the power went out. So then I'm looking at this long line of 12 loaves that are like, they need to start baking now. Like we can't leave this like this for this long. So it was funny. It added a little flair. The other problem is that because I was doing so many, I had to use like dishes and things that they weren't first pick.
Right.
Right. So some of the bowls were like a little bit smaller than they really should have been. Like they were a little bit narrower.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's okay. But I was not thinking in terms of let's let these overrise by quite a bit. So once they all started doing that, so then we quickly tried to shuffle them all into the fridge, but the fridge isn't working either. So by the time you get like 12 of them in the fridge, you're like jury rigging all these bowls and things in there, and then it was pretty funny.
Well, the power outage.
But then I baked them, and even though I've really improved my shaping technique, you would never know it because they all overrose. So they taste really good still. They just behaved a little wonky in the... Yeah.
Well, we were in California during the great power outage, but I was getting lots of texts from my kids because they had a ball for the school that night, and my girls had showered, and then the power went out. And so they're texting,
I'm going
Mom,
with wet hair.
It's dark, and I can't even see anything, and I don't have a hairdryer and a curling iron, and so anyway.
That's hilarious. It was out. In Moscow, I think 12,000 people were without power for like 4.5 hours or something.
Yeah, it was not a brief thing.
No, it was actually a really wild little storm that did but it was funny. It was like, perfect.
It's never convenient.
One thing I love to do is have endless amounts of dough with no destination. And I was like, wait, we looked it up on a Vista, like his mom and dad's house, do that because they were out of town with the Wilson kids. But I was like, maybe their ovens are working, but no, their power was out too. Everybody's power was out.
You could have barbecued it.
We're probably out of propane. It's been so cold. So that was my excitement. I was like, good job,
Yeah,
me.
keeping it real.
Also, this is a little secret problem of mine. No longer a secret, but we've been married coming in on 14 years. Coming in on 14 years, which is coming in on 15 any minute. 14 years.
Okay.
And I remember...
We're hitting 20 this month, Rach.
Oh, it's awesome. I remember trying to talk my husband. I was like, I think we need to buy a floor loom with, like... this is like in our first apartment.
Yeah, but remember what I did in our first apartment?
You did the wall hanging of a floor loom. But see, Ben got right in there with that.
He did. Ben got in it.
Luke's like, I don't think we need to buy a floor loom. And I'm like, just think of the money we'll save on placemats. Because
you're laying out the cash.
Over our lifetime, we were for sure going to be spending this many thousands of dollars on placemats.
Back when placemats were more of a thing.
I was like, well, if you loop in our expenditure on rag rugs. Oh, whatever.
And what you really need is a handcrafted dish towel to save money.
Just wait.
No, I know.
Do you know what this story is building up to? But I was like, I need a floor loom. It's just a thing I've been needing since the time I became... Well, Mom had one when we were little.
Yeah, she did.
And she sold it at a yard sale, I think. So somebody got that thing before I came of age. And but I've always wanted one. I mean, I'm like, that's just a thing. And I have a bench for a loom already that's in my knitting room in my little yarn cellar.
Like the bench. Sit upon?
Yeah,
well, you've got the bench. You kind of need to complete your set now.
I'm most of the way there. The bench has like an angled top, so it's like when you're sitting, you're kind of it leans you towards something that you're working on. It's not, so it's better for posture. It's like it's a unique bench.
It's an ergonomic loom bench.
I guess it's just a wood bench with an angled top. But yes, anyways, I have wanted a loom for a long time. So then years ago, I jumped on in and bought the Ashford Knitters Loom, like a tabletop loom. It's like a 24-inch, I think. Might be a little bit bigger than that, 30-inch, something in there. And I was like, I'll
all your
just
placemat needs.
Yeah, never made a placement on that thing, but I was like, I just love the concept of weaving. So this is a thing.
Me too.
So I have done some things on that, scarves, whatever. But the thing that I am perennially into is dish towels. I have a major spot in my heart that is dedicated to dish towels.
Sure.
Like, I love them in a weird way.
I'm just saying, Rach, a hand-loomed dish towel is a piece of, that's
Have you not been paying attention to my life?
Because I'm just saying to you that is not in the same league as a Walmart dish towel.
No, it's not. I was given 4 for our wedding that I have been using, these red and white ones that somebody wove, one of Luke's family's friends. And they're beautiful, and I've been using them for 14 years, and they look like the same way that they looked at the beginning, and the colors have not faded. They're just like really lovely. And so this has been a thing that I have always wanted. So I wove one on my Ashford Knitters Loom.
You did?
Yeah, years ago. I made one out of the peaches and cream stuff because I had a bigger. Yeah. Well, then I went through a lot of negotiations to get a heddle. I had some trouble with that, but it's a rigid heddle loom, so I got one that is with the actual, whatever they are, closer together. So the dent, is it dents? The dent is the thing that you actually thread
okay.
I think I might be screwing up my loom terminology. However, I finally got one that's the right dents per inch so that you could weave tighter with smaller cotton yarn.
Right. Okay.
To make a better, like a tea towel.
I'm with you.
But every time I go to order the 10-2 cotton for them, I get sidetracked by all of the colors. I'm like, I probably need like 45 colors to make a dish towel.
That's so funny, because you know me, I'd be there with 2 colors.
No, it's just that you feel like, well, if I'm gonna do it, I need to make sure I have enough.
Right.
So I go through, I finally, and then what happens immediately after that is I start seeing drafting patterns for other dishcloths.
Sure.
And then I have to go back and be like, look, we need to buy a floor loom.
This is me Googling and searching for like hydraulic presses.
Yes, because we've got to make some cement tiles.
To make my own cement tile.
That's gonna need to happen.
I know exactly how it should go, and I have to finish my kitchen remodel, which involves tile, but I can't do that unless I make my own tile, which is gonna
why don't I have a hydraulic
press?
Yes, so it is the same thing, but the big breakthrough is that I ordered the cotton.
Congrats, babe.
Yeah, I made it through. And you don't understand how long this has been coming, that I keep thinking.
Just wait for this dish towel, everyone.
Guys, it's going to blow your mind. Well, I'm a big believer in letting your ideas die with dignity. If you think you can do something, you have to try it. Because then you'll know. Maybe you can't do it. And you should know that it was a bad idea.
That when I was, like, in the first year of our marriage, I felt like... No, it's all started with a placemat. Somebody gave us some placemats that I really liked.
With a placemat.
And they were like a cotton string, almost like a heavy string. Was one direction of the weaving, and the other one was rags. Like it was like a rag thing, and it was a really pretty like indigo blue cotton rags, and then this like cream color string. It sounds ugly, but it was actually really cute, and I thought to myself, that would be awesome as a rug. And of course, I couldn't find any rug that way, and I had no money anyway if I had.
But doesn't Ben have a few undershirts?
So I was like, here's what I could do. So then I dreamed up, channeling back to my potholder yarn, or potholder looms of yore. Also, I had a Fisher-Price loom that I made many scarves on when I was a kid. So I felt like I had that handled. So I was like, Ben, in our hall...
We're not using our hall.
And so I talked him into this, hanging a 2x4 up at the ceiling and a 2x4 down on the floor with like 9 kajillion nails running across it. And then I strung that puppy up with the string. And then I had a lot of like muslin randomly that I dyed indigo. Then I had to keep going and buying more and
muslin.
more.
Because you need more muslin than Moscow has.
Yeah, and then dyeing it all batch by batch into indigo, and then ripping it into strips.
And if I recall, did you not make it about like it was 10 feet wide?
It was like a 10 foot by 10 foot. So it started like with me sitting on the floor.
I'm just gonna pull this thing in the washing machine.
No, I wanted it like the size of our room, like a bedroom, like. I know,
yes.
So I am sitting on the floor, scooching with my rags until then finally at the end, like 9 months later, I'm standing on a chair, twiddling it through, and then get off the chair, scoot the chair, get up, weave it through. It was all going great until we took it off the wall, and it immediately flopped down to like the size of a potholder.
And the funny thing, it probably weighed like 60 pounds.
And it was like loose and saggy.
That's what I meant, is that it would probably have tightened right up in the washing machine, but ain't no way.
I tried it under a bed and it didn't even stick out.
The peekaboo rock.
I think it came out like maybe
like
a little
coaster.
like 6 to 8 inches. And underneath it's like this rumply thing. Anyway, I'm just saying that I didn't let that one die with dignity. I just took it out to the dumpster.
No, I think what I meant about let your idea die with dignity is that if you hadn't done that at that time, you would still think
that
at any given moment I could just whip off with an area rug on the wall. And you actually
guys, you can't. I'm just here to tell you in case you thought you could.
Oh, it's so Becca has gone before us to figure that out.
I've charted that part of the map, and you can't go there.
I think the actual truth is that you probably can.
Well,
do
you
it.
just have to have a
But
loom.
you have to actually be able to develop some tension and have a beater bar
Yeah,
because
the loom can't
it's
be
gonna go nowhere without a beater
2x4s
bar.
and
Yeah.
nails. No, you have to have it be a little
You're
more.
gonna need to do something a little more hardcore than that. So maybe you should fire up another one.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh man, good
Gosh,
times. But I do
know.
sometimes I talk to people who are like have had this idea that they're confident would work for like 20 years. And I'm like, see, you don't know.
Yeah, like
you
bust
don't
that
know.
out. Check
if
it out.
was a good idea, do the thing already. And if it was a bad idea, at least find out and quit telling everyone
So
that you
funny.
had a great idea.
Oh my word. Well, anyways, we should talk about something else.
No, this is
So last week we talked about women being big enough kids to take rebukes.
Yes, and actually, we fired that podcast out and wondered to ourselves later,
Like, was it a bit crisp?
were
of
we
us?
a little bit reckless or just rebuke it up? Rebuke everyone. Take it.
Like, was everybody going to get their feelings hurt?
Didn't
just by
seem
us
like it. If
talking
they
about
did,
it?
they're no longer listeners. So
No,
they're-
but we got actually, there was a lot of good feedback about that one.
yeah. So
So we
one
thought
thing,
maybe we should talk about that some more.
yes, but more. I wanted to clarify that we were talking about specific rebuke last week mostly, but we wanted to talk about an angle of it that is more conviction, what it means to be convicted and how to deal with that. Because sometimes I think some of the most rebuking feeling things that have happened to me was not someone actually coming over to rebuke you.
No,
It's a Bible verse that you read. It is something your husband mentions. Maybe you ought to
Or
see
suddenly-
at this.
Suddenly you just notice yourself.
You see
doing.
something, you see a parallel behavior, like when you're a mother. I think it is not uncommon to be annoyed with things that your kids are doing that you're actually doing.
Like,
So
using your
sometimes-
ugly voice.
Yeah. It's like, kids, why are you talking so bossy to one another? What is your problem? And you're like, I wonder where you learned this tone of voice. Who
Yeah.
could have done this for you? So basically that kind of thing. Or if sometimes it is, reading something else, maybe it's in a sermon, maybe it's, when someone shares something that they were convicted by and you feel like, oh my word, they're like 12 miles ahead of me
Yeah.
on that spiritual road,
Right.
and they're like fine tuning something
Yeah.
that you're like, I had not
Oh, yeah.
thought of that. This
yeah.
is really embarrassing.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't
basically,
have to hit
it
you.
doesn't have to be like someone saying, Dear Rachel,
Yeah.
you're in sin about X.
No.
Confess now. Or,
No, it might just be, honestly, sometimes it's just seeing somebody else's obedience in something where you just go, oh, dang.
yeah, like, whoops.
Look at that.
I'm not being nearly manly enough, or I am not being as brave. Or maybe you see something like, recognizing, like I remember years ago, my husband going on like a business trip, him having to be gone, and me feeling like I had the really hard part of this job, like
Right.
being at home with all of the little kids at the
Yeah.
time, and like pregnant, I think. You know what I mean? It's just like that, like I feel breathless and tired and I'm all by myself and no one is coming after dinner to make things better for me.
Right.
Nobody's doing that. Poor me. And then, but you can very easily get caught up in that kind of a feeling, not reflecting on would I like to have to spend the night in the Minneapolis airport? You know what I mean? Like, would I like to be sitting in one of those chairs at an airport, not being at home? It's
Right.
like, here I am feeling like I got the worst part, but then again, I have my bed here. Like, then
Yeah.
again, I have, and it wasn't anyone rebuking me. It's a actual thought that comes into your
I
mind.
think it's the Holy Spirit is what that is.
Yes, but I mean, it wasn't like, it's like when something just washes over you in a convicting way. Like,
Yeah.
it is the Holy Spirit. And you're like, okay, bad attitude.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think our culture is diligently building up every kind of defense against
Calluses.
ever feeling conviction, because there's always an excuse, there's always an out, there's always some reason
There is not just,
that you don't have to listen to that you shouldn't feel bad about yourself.
there is a
You shouldn't beat
cliche,
yourself
there's
up.
a cliche response to everything. And if you see any, like you know, you have to put on your oxygen mask before you can help others. Like, you need to. Right. There are cliche responses, or like, that's a toxic person, you should cut them out of your life. Right. You deserve better than that. And sometimes I wonder, do you? Yeah. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I kind of doubt it, actually.
Like, let's actually, I'm going to roll up the window because there's a weird set of bugs happening.
Oh, it is kind of a,
all right, there.
A set.
Problem
You're reminding me
solved.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think that
it's like, there's just automatic responses that is like, don't feel bad.
No.
It's not your fault.
No, it's like,
no one should ever have told you that.
Introverts never are able to do that. Don't feel bad. If you have a sorry thing in your past, you shouldn't have to be strong. Don't feel bad because you're a woman, and so there's always some little excuse a law. Can find.
The law is something we feel naturally because we actually know God in our, like, you know, it's like we actually do know. We know that we're guilty. We know we're in sin. Yeah. Like, and the world is in a constant state of trying to create loopholes for every law. Yeah. So it's like, if you feel guilt, if you feel a weight of something, like, for a Christian, that's not a problem. Like, the Bible says the Lord disciplines those he loves. It's like assurance that you are a son, that you belong. Here's
the deal. I think when we feel convicted of something or we feel guilty, we know what we're supposed to do with that, and that is hand it to Christ. Like, ask for forgiveness. And then you don't have to carry around the weight of the guilt. But see, for the world, they've got nowhere to put it. So the only thing they can do is deny that it's happening.
Right, and one of the amazing things about it is if you feel guilt or you feel something and you confess it and you do that, not only do you not have the guilt, you have you closer to God.
Right.
Like, so it's actually a very rewarding system. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not something that is like, oh, here's an invitation to a life where you just get beat up. It's like you get built up constantly.
So the thing is, if you feel stung by something that you hear, something in the sermon, something on the blog, you know, your pastor's blog, something on whatever, some book that you're reading, if you feel stung by it, then you really have to stop and process, like, okay, why do I feel stung? Is it because he's being mean to me, or is it because I have something to confess? And I think that that's where it's too easy for women, especially, to say he's being mean to me. How dare you say that?
Well, the reason it's easy to say that is because someone will say it with you. There is always someone who will back up your side of the story.
There will always be a cheerleading squad.
But the Proverbs are rich with this about faithful are the wounds of a friend and profuse the kisses of the enemy. Yep. And if you ever feel like someone is falling all over themselves on you, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing, you're so talented, you're so all of these things. Like, say you said something on Facebook or you're, you know, whatever, and people are like, no. You're amazing, you're beautiful. It's like, what is that other than profuse kisses? Like, where it's like, it's so over the top, it's got to be fake.
Well, there's like,
I'm not your hero.
There's a lot of mutual, everyone understands the unwritten law that is like, I'll like your Instagram post if you like mine.
I'll tell you, you're gorgeous and hot.
Right.
You are so hot, woman. What is that about?
And say, stop doing that, everyone.
I so agree. Women, shut up calling each other hot or sexy mama or growling at one another.
No, putting little like flame.
No, like,
stop it now.
Like, ladies, this is the worst thing I ever imagined when that happens.
Because it's so weird. It's like...
I so agree. I was like, and think about if your husband did that. If your husband posted a photo of himself, like, next to the car, and then got comments from all the other men in the church being like, what a hunk.
Oh, sexy man.
Such a hunk. You look really strong and amazing. You know,
I wish my abs looked like
this
that.
This is so horrifyingly dark. Like, and the women nonetheless do it.
But lots of times I am really curious what on earth, because I feel like there's a bizarro thing that happens on Christian social media.
It's gets Christians don't get it.
Because
I feel like
the pagans, the guys will straight up just say that on the girls' post.
Okay, I was saying
the girls, the Christian women can't have the men doing it, so they just
do it
to
each other. And I remember we were laughing about this with the modesty thing, is that like Christians have a reason to want to hide the motives.
Oh,
and
big.
So Christians
Bury
are like,
the motive
Christians
all
are like,
the
we
time.
don't want to talk about the motives. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna try on a really immodest, butt tight skirt that is way too short, and then I'm going to ask my friends if it's flattering.
Is it flattering?
Does this flatter me? Is this flattering? Or do you think that this is, like, does this make me look okay?
Right.
Or something?
Right.
Well, a pagan would just be like, does this make my butt look hot? I mean, like, will this bring the guys over? I use toned down language. But my point is, they all know that they're going on the prowl. They're all talking about who will we lure in with this.
No.
And the Christians are like, no, it's just flattering, and
it's flattering.
And it shows your...
I'm just going on the prowl, but no one's allowed to say what I'm doing.
Well, in the pagan world, you just wear a hideous, short, tight skirt, and someone spanks your butt. And in church, everybody has to pretend that they didn't notice. And all these guys who are acting like they never even crossed their radar that you're doing this. And it's like, we're just hiding. It's exactly the same thing happening. We're just hiding. And I just think that that's a funny problem.
It's
you're like,
it's
why can't you just acknowledge what you're doing?
Yeah.
Because if you acknowledge it, you'd have to acknowledge it was also sin.
Yeah. If you say it out loud, you're going to have to then stop doing what you're doing.
And you're like, well, the pagans they're all there to acknowledge it.
Yeah, and the pagans don't have to try and hide their light under a bushel about what they're up to. They just go forth and do it. So there's this really hilarious, like...
And Christians are like, me too, except for I would never have had that motive. And so then when Christians are doing it, they talk like it's a total mystery why anyone would ever do this.
And then a pastor says something about it, and then everyone throws
someone's like, maybe don't wear these things that are clearly designed to get attention.
Then it's like,
how could you say that? I would have done that.
I just love myself in a very, like,
I've always had, do you remember that
God
horrible...
made women beautiful, and we should rejoice in our beauty.
Oh, and so if we can't help ourselves when we are wearing tiny short skirts and low-cut tops.
Basically, like...
It's a complete mystery how this happened. It's the only things that I could find at the store. And then it's like, how dare these uptight Christians? I actually do think that this is connected with when you see a pastor who is trying to faithfully pastor and is fighting the good fight. It is not unlike the stupid fights you have with your own toddlers. Because sometimes you are like, so I did not like put on my agenda have a showdown about the screen on the front door, or have, about not pressing cheese into it. like I didn't put that down. Here's what I want to spend my months doing. Fighting with a toddler over this.
On your nice little agenda, it goes under big goals.
Like, big dreams would be wrangle with my toddler about the cheese in the screen. And you're like, you don't do that. But when your kid does something like that, if you're a parent, you have to reckon with it. You have to be like, okay, I'm going to tell you this was a no.
Yeah.
And this is something that I want you to no longer do. We're going to say no about that. I think that's a bad idea. And it's different because with a pastor, he might just say, so guys, this hot new trend in the church of smushing cheese through the screen door, I'd like us to stop that. And then everyone immediately is like, he is so petty.
Legalist,
you're so petty. I can't believe that you don't want us to do this.
And I love that then they start smushing cheese through the screen all over the place, saying, I can't believe how much he cares about cheese on the screen.
What is his deal?
When you're like,
who's doing it?
When you're like, who among us here is caught up on the subject the most?
You're like, no, and I know, it's like if we would just go away from
Who's
this.
unable to let it go.
Right, or if we could say, actually, I believe that the Word of God says that cheese should be in the screen door. Then that is a different discussion.
Yes, it is.
And cheese in the screen door. It's starting to fall apart here. But the metaphor being, if it's like, okay, the pastor is an authority, but he's not an absolute authority. No. And if it's something that the pastor's saying, you may not drink water, or you may not do something like that. Well, that's something that, like there are kinds of things. There are legalistic pastors.
Yeah, there are power
things
trippy pastors out there.
There are problems. But it's a discussion of, is this a legitimate use of your, is this a legitimate thing to say this is not consistent with God's plan for how we behave?
But having the actual discussion about it is different than having a complete freak out that he dare bring the subject up.
Yeah,
because it's like, wait a minute, if you're the toddler who pushed the cheese through the screen, who brought it up? Yeah. It wasn't him. It was actually you. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like, so who is it that is responsible for the pettiness of the discussion?
Exactly. And I love that it's always the people who
are not petty,
who are acting like he's the petty one for talking about it.
Or like the pastor is strangely fascinated with pettiness. And it is actually true. They could be, but it is also true that I have seen pastors who are not really obsessed with pettiness have to get into the most petty discussions with people because it's like, no.
And then
we
they're the one
insist that we have a right to,
Well, it was like Knox when he was a kid. We had cotton balls in the bathroom, and he was little. Yes. He was probably like 3, and he could not.
Oh my word!
Could not stop himself. He had to get the cotton ball wet, and then throw it at the ceiling and stick it on. And I did not notice this until one day.
Giving that cotton ball enough heft
to splat on there, and then it would dry and stay up there. But once I went in, and it was like we had sort of pale blue walls, and there was like this white thing on the wall way up high, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a mushroom growing off my wall. And I'm thinking we have a weird fungus, and I look up at the ceiling, and it is like covered in bumps, white bumps that I had not seen before. And I was really sure that it was like tree mushrooms that were growing on my
just
ceiling.
Cotton swabs.
So, and anyway, then we peel them all off, and it's like, we have the talk. Knox, you need to not do it, but he can't stop himself. It's like, and every so often I would look up again, and it's like, there they are, and they would blend enough that you didn't notice until you were looking for them. Anyway, but it's like, yes.
Actually, I love this because it is totally like one day the pastor walks into the bathroom and is like, is that something funny up there by the wall? And then he's like, what? There's a ton of this in here. How did this get here? And then he has to say, it's like team meeting, guys.
And then I love the idea of having Knox be like, gosh, Mom and Dad care so much about cotton balls. They're so obsessed with cotton balls.
They're super obsessed. It's ridiculous. Can't get enough of the cotton balls, Mom and Dad. I think it's funny. But, okay, so I would say, when you are convicted, or sometimes I feel like I'm convicted of something, and it's more like, okay, I just learned something. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, okay, further up, the older we get,
to change course
further up and further in, God revealed something to me. Yeah. And it's not so much conviction like, oh my word. It like, I don't tend towards introspection. So I want to say this for people who do, because there are women like that.
Yeah.
When you're convicted of something and God's like, okay, directing your path, like, just accept that in gratitude, and don't make it all about like learning something new now is not the same thing as God despising all of your past efforts, or like, this is not like a...
No, because God is so kind to not reveal all of our faults to us at once, isn't he?
Think of that.
I mean, it's a slow release.
Dark times. Yes, and that it's not about like, I think I said this recently. Oh, it was in a webinar, so some of you probably were in there. But it was like, our view of God is so weird if we think that we hate being convicted of something because we think God will judge us for that. Like, we think that, great, now I'm in trouble for that too. Like, great, now I can't do that too. And like, what a weird view of God that is.
Right.
When you say, the reality is we should be always like, thank you, Lord. Like, I think I said something about this. Like, here I am, all this mess here. And our response to this kind of thing should be like, Lord, I'm so glad you're here. Come in. Do you know what I mean? Like, come in and help me fix things that I can't even.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so thankful for your presence that you're coming. And not thinking that, no, I've got to clean this place up before God can come over.
Right.
Like, I can't let him come over. With this being in this current state. So one thing I would say is that to receive it as it is meant from God, which is tenderly leading you places. You know, like, and notice, like, when that happens, I feel like it's a very personal relationship with God, because you're like, Lord, I'm doing this because I was convicted of this. Like, you often really feel very directly led.
Yeah.
Like, very direct encouragement right after you have been obedient in something you didn't want to be.
Yeah.
Very revealing a bigger...
And oftentimes when you take that step that you didn't want to take, there are so many things you suddenly see on the other side. You know what I mean?
That's my point.
It just
it's like
opens
you feel,
up like,
and you just feel
man.
like God is so kind to do that, because it's like that little act of obedience often just multiplies in this kindness being, like, love and kindness being bestowed on you.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a...
Yes. So, do you have a recommend of anything? Because we're totally talking a lot.
Snap, we did that again.
We do. We keep on, don't we?
So we said we were going to talk about summer shoes.
Oh, my heavens. I'm having such a thing about summer shoes right now. I had a...
They're cute. She has them right now.
Well, see, what I was wanting, I wanted Huaraches for the summer, but I was already feeling a bit tenuous about that, because it feels to me like a mom shoe from 1988.
It is.
And
you just need a long rayon printed dress or some...
something like that. But see, I really wanted Huaraches, but last year, I shouldn't have bought them because they were stupidly expensive, but they were Fry's, and they were gorgeous Huaraches. And then and then this year I was like, I really want to get some just for summer, you know, something easy to throw on and stuff. I just bought a pair, but I hate the sole. The sole is not at all. The sole is not the sole of a beautiful shoe. It's like a little molded rubber stupidness. But, you know, the authentic Huaraches they make out of tires. You know, the sole is made out of tires. So these are not quite that, but they are not a good sole, and that kind of hurts my feelings. So I'm not really sure if I can come to terms with these shoes.
Are you sure that they're made out of tires?
Like the actual ones? If you buy the actual, like, Mexican ones.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, so I have these on, and I'm kind of having a bit of a crisis about it, but I'm wearing them. Because I was down to, like, virtually no shoes except my one pair of metallic silver leather loafers, which really don't match anything, but I was wearing them with all things because that was basically my one pair of flat shoes that I had.
Because it's what you got.
Anyway.
You do what you got.
So I am wearing some Huaraches with a bad sole. Mm-hmm. Why are we talking about this?
Because I said give a recommend, but you didn't really plug those.
I'll let you know.
They actually are cute.
If I come to
I recently bought
them.
I bought some silly shoes for the summer also.
But see, you can recommend those.
I can, but I'm not sure other people think I should. I just like them. They're called Bernie Mev. They are shoes that are it's woven elastic. And this is like a pair of kind of like ballet flats, but they totally look like loom pot holders.
They do.
They look like something Chloe maybe made them for me.
But they're kind of groovy. I mean, they really do look like
them.
Pot holders.
It's funny because they have a lot of spice to them, but they're very comfortable and they're funny. They're really funny.
But it's kind of nice to have something to throw on that's not quite a flip-flop.
I didn't want a flip-flop, but I also didn't want them to be too dressy. I do have a pair of Fry's ballet flats, like woven green leather ones that I do like, but they would be odd with they're just a little too dressy for like just shorts and a hoodie. You wouldn't throw that on. And this, I'm not gonna be wearing these with shorts and a hoodie right now either. I'm actually gonna wear nothing with shorts and a hoodie right now, so that's all right. But I mean, there are things that the leather ones are too dressy for. Right. So these are very silly shoes. But I'll tell you that when I ordered them, I did not know that they had any metallic in them. From the photo, I didn't realize there was actually like sparkly there's like silver in the gray. Yeah. But turns out I still really like them.
No, they're festive.
I'm a big fan of them.
You'll have to put a picture up of these.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
Stretchy elastic, which actually is kind of a cozy idea.
They are, and because they're woven, they have like a memory foam sole, and I'm gonna just throw them in the washing machine because I think that I can do that.
I think I'm gonna get these. I think what I'm gonna do is lay into them with a different color of like shoe polish because
like darker.
Yeah, just a tiny bit more chestnut. If I could just get a...
But I think they are cute.
Look at this. I just bought this in Goodwill while I was waiting for you. tell me this is not hilarious.
Good. That's really good.
It's a leather belt that has a trucker belt buckle.
No, it doesn't. It has a service award for
a long haul trucker.
Nice.
But I'm going to take the buckle off.
Achieved.
It's one of these embossed leather belts, but I have a buckle too, and I've never gotten it on.
But I have a buckle that I got at a yard sale with a big turquoise.
Yeah, mine's turquoise too. How funny. But if you want a driver's service award for a long haul trucker belt buckle, I can sport you one. But
that's fun though. I like it.
But I'm also like these little weird embossed eagles. I think I'm gonna polish them a little darker too, because I'm not loving the lighter eagle. But anyway, that's what I just bought at Goodwill.
So basically, Becca needs some dark polish.
I need some dark polish because I've got a few leather goods that I don't like the color.
You know what works really well is Urad. Have you ever used Urad?
No.
Shoe polish? It's like it smells like sap or something. It's kind of awesome in its old schooliness, but it would probably kind of darken it a little
bit. Be good.
It's not a color.
Look at this. We went 45 minutes. We have got to
bunch of blabbers.
Call it off.
All right, guys.
All right.
We're going to go talk more about important things without you.
Bye.
Bye.